Hello, everybody, and welcome to the DenziBlitz here on the ECS Network. I'm your host, Mike from Electric City Sentai DenziCaster, and we have reached the end. The final 5 episodes, the final Jochaku of Space Sheriff Gavan, Uchuu Keiji Gavan. I'm kind of speechless, which is going to be horrible TV, horrible YouTube video. But we're going to get through this. 5 episodes. We watched episodes 40 through 44 today. So those are the Decisive Battle of the Valley of Doom. Makuu City is a battlefield of men. Retsu, Hurry, Dad, Reunion, and The Neck of Dawn Horror. So, first things first. I'll get this out of the way now. I thought the 5 final episodes were tremendous. I don't think there's a bad one in the bunch. Episode 40, you could strike from an essentials list, but 41 to 44 need to be there. These 5 episodes probably cement Gavan in my all-time top 5. There's a rarefied air at the top of my Toku hero list, the Toku heroes that I think are among the greatest of the great, and there are very few shows that occupy that space that I would say, yes, this is one that every Tokusatsu fan absolutely must watch. Kamen Rider Black is on that list. V3 is on that list. I would put probably Live Man, which we're watching right now on DenziCaster, on that list. Die Ranger, and now Gavan. And I would be hard-pressed to say Gavan's not in the top even 2 or 3. As I sit here right now, having just watched the last 5 episodes, it's my number 1. But like all lists, things can change. Let's go through these 5 episodes before I just spend the entire 20 minutes to half an hour gushing over how good the finale of this show is. Episode 40, The Decisive Battle of the Valley of Doom. Basically, the Makuu, and realistically, I tell a lie. You need all 5 of these last episodes, because even episode 40, which on the surface feels like a throwaway episode, actually includes something that is essential to knowing the plot of the show. So, the Makuu are gathering minerals, specifically Devilanium or something along those lines. Basically, it's a mineral that they tack the word devil onto to make it sound more menacing, that contains enough uranium in it to make an atomic bomb, which is what they're trying to do. The Makuu are trying to make a hydrogen bomb. So Gavan to the rescue, but unfortunately, Kojiro, our resident UFO researcher, has somehow told his cousin Shiro that his best friend is Gavan, and now Shiro wants to become a space sheriff himself. So Gavan has to somehow save the day without blowing his secret identity. The reason this episode probably belongs on an essential list, aside from being just a really fun episode, is because it lays the groundwork for the idea of another space sheriff on Earth, which becomes a big deal by the end of this series. So there is that one. The episode itself, not the greatest episode in the series by any stretch of the imagination, but a good, fun, solid episode. And the kid who plays Shiro in this, who is this overweight, out of shape, geeky kid, he does a tremendous job in this episode. That kid did a really good job with the role, and really got across that, you know, he wants to be a space sheriff. This is what he realized. It's the kid who wants to realize his dream. So I think that was a tremendous piece of business. Episode 41 Makuu City is a battlefield of men. Basically, um, this episode is more or less cat drugs from beginning to end. The Makuu, specifically Kiba, have created this magical red hourglass that will trap Gavan in Makuu space forever. The only way he can survive is to destroy Hell Doubler, our monster of the week, before the sands of the hourglass run out. It feels to me, this felt very familiar to the Zyuranger plot slash Power Rangers plot with Dragon Ranger and the green candle that would, when it burned out, he would die. Or I actually think a better analog is probably the MMPR, the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers version of that, where the green candle represented Tommy's powers as the Green Ranger. More because in Power Rangers, the green candle was a machination of our bad guys, whereas in Zyuranger, it really wasn't. It was more of a means to let Barai help after his actual death. Spoilers if you haven't seen Zyuranger or watched our look at Zyuranger, which was here on the DenziBlitz. But it's a fun episode because it's pretty much Makuu space for 30 minutes. And it really, really is a fairly interesting concept. It's not one that's original even to the series. They've done it before here on Gavan, but they do a lot of wild stuff, really good action set pieces. Most of it is Kenji Oba out of costume as Retsu, untransformed. So it really serves as a showcase for Kenji Oba's physicality and his stunt work. Most people, I think, sometimes forget that Kenji Oba started his career in tokusatsu as a suit actor. He was a suit actor on Himitsu Sentai Go Ranger. In fact, he was one of the suit actors for Aqua Ranger, for the original Red Ranger at one point. And so that not only led to his career in other shows, not the least of which is Gavan, his first crack at a starring spot, but when you see him in action, it really is just an incredible thing to watch this man do what he does, because he's just tremendous at it. The episode sets up the tone, I think, for the last three. It's bookended by this little dog who sticks with us for pretty much the rest of the series. But the little doggy, the little puppy, sort of reminds Gavan more of his father, and we come back to the idea of his father voicer as the episode ends, and that he still hasn't forgotten. He's still on the hunt for his dad. Retsu, Hurry, Dad, episode 42, is basically two pieces of business here. Number one, Gavan is looking for his father. He has a lead. Planet Bird, Mimi, returns after a many episode hiatus. But Mimi comes back with news on the location of Gavan's dad. Basically, he's in a hidden Makuu base in a mountain. Gavan starts looking for his father, and he runs into a forest patrolman, an overzealous, perhaps wild man of a forest ranger, who is after a group of poachers. And basically, we follow the ranger for a little bit, our forest patrolman, who eventually gets injured, and Gavan gets him to safety aboard Dolgaron, and they take him back to Planet Bird for to help cure him of a poison that he falls victim to over the course of the episode. That character, that forest patrolman, is Den Iga. Den Iga is introduced here to the audience as this very overzealous just fiery young man, which is going to be important later. Gavan figures out his dad is alive, but the Makuu get him out before he can find his father, essentially. The episode, we get some really good action scenes with Deniga and Uretsu Gavan. We get some really cool action sequences there. We get to see Deniga in action a little bit, which kind of whets the appetite for him. So that's really cool. I enjoyed from here on in, it's kind of the quest for his father, which is a really, really interesting story to tell, and one that, on an emotional level, I think Kenji Oba delivers in spades with his performance. And we will give credit here where it's due. The episode is written by Shozo Uehara, who would write, for the record, the final 3 episodes of the series. And it's directed by Hideo Tanaka, who I think winds up directing the last 3 episodes of the series. So, I mean, this is effectively a 3-parter that rounds out Gavan. So, just some tremendous work here out of All Concerned. And I just really enjoyed it. I have no negatives, frankly, out of these last 5 episodes at all. Moving on to... Oh, one more thing. I shouldn't jump too far ahead. And the way we find out where Voicer is being held, where Gavan's father is being held, is Hunter Killer. So they do bring him back. Apparently the Galactic Patrol finds him floating through the dark galaxy where he is banished by Don Horror upon his son's return. And Sondorva Horror's son's return. And they're basically trying to nurse him back to health. And Commander Quom is questioning him once he's healthy enough to answer some questions. And he gives up the location of Voicer, finally. We get to episode 43, the penultimate episode of Gavan. Gavan finds out where his father has been hidden after being taken out, secreted away from the Makuu's mountain base, which they destroyed. The Makuu self-destructed it in 42 in a desperate attempt to kill Gavan. Basically, he's on an island somewhere deep in the midst of the Pacific Ocean. Gavan scrambles to try to save him, which he does. We get that moment. I will say it's one of the most touching moments I've seen in Tokusatsu, period. One of the things, and they use there's a good use of flashbacks to previous episodes throughout these last few as well, just to sort of remind people of what you've seen and what's been going on. Gavan has been in possession, ever since he found his father's ship, he's been in possession of 2 pocket watches. One which was his mother's, which has his father's picture in it, played by Sonny Chiba, Voicer. And then he finds Voicer's pocket watch, which is an identical match, except when you pop it open, it's a picture of young Gavan and his mother. And we get to see that Voicer is basically clinging on to life so that he can see his son again, so that he can see his grown adult son and the man he's become. The story is very poignant to me. It's not something I've discussed here on the channel at any length. I lost my father at a young age, relatively young age. I was 17 when my dad passed away. And I wound up in the ICU, and I saw my father die through an ICU window. I saw him pass away. Gavan has a very similar experience in this episode. They save his father. They get his father back to the ship. His father has the secret to this planet-destroying laser that the Makuu are trying to complete, which we find out in the previous episode in 42. And he keeps that secret. He stays alive in order to keep the secret from falling into the Makuu's hands. And as Gavan sits there and reminisces, he stays with his father as his father rests in a medical bay room, presumably aboard Dolgeron. And they are listening to this music from these matching pocket watches. The same music that he plays when he first finds his father's passed out in a jail cell, face down, and Gavan approaches, and rather than say anything, he opens the pocket watch, and the music plays, and the music is what rouses Voicer, and Voicer crawls to the bars of the cell and sees his son, his grown son, for the first time. He's listening to the same music play, and there's reminiscing of the memories of them as a family as he lies in this bed. And when Gavan is, when the song stops and Gavan breaks out of his reverie, his father's dead. His father passes away there in the bed in front of him. The one thing he wanted to see before he died is, I want to see my son. And he's done that, and he's done his duty, and he has seen the kind of man his son has become, and he knows his son can finish the job. That's a touching story, and I don't care who you are. And they did it tremendously well. Big props, because it's an incredible story. And a very mature story, and a very daring story for what is children's television. You can watch the DenziBlitz bonus from last week, where I talk about, whether something is a children's television or adult television or family television over the eras of tokusatsu, and how in the 1980s it was more family than anything else, but at the end of the day it's still a kid's show. This son watching, the son dealing with his father's passing is a very touching subject, a very challenging subject. And I think they handled it very well, and with Gavan saying, but he's still here. He's still alive. He's still with me. He's in my heart. He'll never die. I think is a tremendous, I use that word a lot, but it really is just a really, really touching story, handled incredibly well. The final episode, which is where we actually get that line, where we have the line, he's always with me, he's still here, my father will never die, my mother will never die, they're in my heart, is the final episode, the series finale, episode 44, The Neck of Don Horror, where essentially Sandorva is banished from the Makuu, but he and his mother come up with one final plan to try to destroy Gavan, but in the process, they're going to try to destroy Don Horror at the same time. If somehow, some way, they can force Don Horror and Gavan to fight each other, then it's going to all, they'll kill each other. There's no way one could survive the other. And then Sandorv is left with the Makuu Empire at his doorstep, at his beck and call. Essentially, what we get out of this is a bit of a capital ship fight for the purposes of this show, where it's the Makuu Castle versus Dolgeron. We realize that Don Horror is smarter than the average bear. He knows what his son is planning, because he may have plotted the same thing, you reckon, at some point in time. And he forces his son to fight Gavan again with Kiba. And Kiba and Sandorva in combination almost get the job done. They really do have Gavan on his heels until a red glowing ball of light, not unlike Gavan's bluish silver ball as he transforms, arrives and saves Gavan's bacon. And it is the newest Space Sheriff Sharivan. Sharivan basically just helps bail Gavan out, and then we don't see him again for the rest of the battle. Gavan finishes off Sondorva and Kiva, and then calls on Siberian. Rather than leaving Makuu space, he drives through it, he rides through it, and he gets to Makuu Castle. One final confrontation with Don Horror, who is going to handle this himself, orders all of his minions out of the way. Don Horror, like all good video game bosses, has more than one form. He has two in this case. The first form, he winds up fighting him as the big statue, basically. The statue has four arms. Two of them are a dude with his arms poking through holes in the statue, but it works here. And then as Gavan starts to approach and get closer, the head separates, and that's the essence. That's where Don Horror's actual power and intelligence and everything lies. And then it's the head of Don Horror versus Gavan in the final showdown, which Gavan eventually, of course, emerges victorious. The finale of the episode sees Commander Qualm having returned to Earth with Charivan, who is Den Iga. We find out he has become a space sheriff himself. So we are told that he is the new space sheriff overseeing Earth, in charge of protecting the planet, to which Gavan initially takes exception, going, "No, that's my job. I'm the space sheriff assigned to Earth." And Commander Qualm informs him, "No, you have been promoted to captain, and you are now the captain overseeing the entire Sol system." So he oversees the entire star system or solar system, rather than just one planet. And Charivan will report to him. And that's sort of the setup for our sequel series, Space Sheriff Charivan, which debuted the following week. So, my final thoughts on Space Sheriff Gavan. It's 80s tokusatsu at its best. With all the ups and downs, it's got it all. It is the best of 80s tokusatsu in that it has lots of action, it has a variety of stories, multiple jumping on points, and it's just overall fun. Not something that takes itself too seriously, but not afraid to tackle a serious story. With that said, it has all the warts of 80s tokusatsu as well. Sometimes the effects are a little dodgy, and perhaps it's too episodic for modern sensibility when it comes to television and this kind of show. But with that said, Gavan is a tremendous series. The effects, the visuals in this show are second to none for its time frame. They did some really daring things with the special effects, and they don't always work the way I think they intended, and not all of them have aged particularly well. But when you take yourself out of the HD Blu-ray 4K age and you transport yourself back to the 1980s and think about what this looked like on a smaller, lower resolution television, then you get an idea, ooh, this had to have looked really good, because a lot of the effects do still hold up. A lot of the effects for the laser blade and the weapons, a lot of the Makuu space shots and things like that hold up tremendously well. The music for this show, it's very 80s, but it's very good. There's a variety of different songs. The music and the sound design gets the emotion of the scene, whether it's supposed to be high energy action or big heroics, or in the case of the last few episodes, even some really sad and down moments. And knowing when to, and it's something I didn't really notice until these last batch episodes, knowing when to lay the music out, where there's no music at all, to create sort of a sense of anticipation and tension. So the sound design is very good. Yeah, there's a lot of one and done Monster of the Week episodes, and if that's not your cup of tea, then skip them. Go back through these 8 episodes we've done here on the show, the last 8 weeks, and see for yourself what you think. Find the essential episodes, watch them, and if you're curious to watch more, watch more. This show has made me very, very excited to watch. One, to put me on the hunt for Uchuu Keiji Charivan. That is now a thing. I am on the hunt for that show because they set it up at the end of this series brilliantly, and I want to see how Charivan picks up the ball, so to speak. It also makes me very excited to watch Uchuu Keiji Shider, which we will be doing here on the ECS network on DenziBlitz in about 10 weeks. So I'm really looking forward to that as well. Space Sheriff Gavan, 2 thumbs up. Absolutely outstanding show. Heck of a way for the Metal Hero franchise to kick off. And I have an incredible lack of vocabulary to explain and express exactly how cool I think this series is. Heartily recommend it. If you find it out there somewhere, get it, watch it, consume it, enjoy it, discuss it, let us know what you think about it. We hope you've enjoyed our look at Uchuu Keiji Gavan, the man in the silver suit back here, over the last 8 weeks on the DenziBlitz. But next week, while Uchuu Keiji Gavan's battle against the Makuu has come to an end, there is another threat that has come to planet Earth in the year 2015. And this time, only the Power Rangers can save the day. We're going to be taking a look at Power Rangers Dino Charge starting next week. You guys picked it. It's the show we are going to watch next here on the DenziBlitz, and I really hope you guys enjoy it. We are going to watch all of Dino Charge and Dino Supercharge. We're going to do it over the course of 9 weeks. We are using the Lionsgate DVD season releases, which means that we're going to get through Dino Charge in over the course of 5 weeks, and we're going to get through Dino Supercharge over the course of 4 weeks. So we're really kind of doing 2 series back to back, but it's because we want to do the entire Dino Charge story, Supercharge story in one fell swoop. So folks, until next time, we really hope you've enjoyed our look at Uchuu Keiji Gavan. We hope that you'll jump over to cafepress.com/ECS Network and pick yourself up a cool t-shirt for DenziCaster, which includes our new DenziCaster Space Sheriff style shirt inspired by the Space Sheriffs themselves, Gavan, Charivan, and Shider. Because all the proceeds from that do go to help us out right here on the network with things like lighting and cameras and so on. So folks, until next time, when it's morphin' time, I'm Mike, and we'll see you on the DenziBlitz.